Blue, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on sportstalksc.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil, Chris, and Pat with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
All right, welcome in. Chris is on vacation. Phil and Pat are here at our Columbia studios. Hope you've had a just marvelous, marvelous day. Rain is coming in, and the start of the series tomorrow night at Clemson is somewhat in danger. We'll find out more. We've got Mark Kingston live with us at 6:35 tonight. Eric Bakich at 7:35. Coach Bakich would obviously, being up at Clemson, would know more about what's happening with the weather up there. Tomorrow night is the one that's in danger. I think Saturday, Sunday look okay. It could be like 2021 when the game at Clemson, the Friday night game, was rained out, and then they continued with the series and then made up the rained out game later on in the year. So we'll see what happens with that, but certainly that has kind of put things a little bit up in the air pitching-wise and schedule-wise. Clemson does not plan to announce their starting rotation until later this evening, and South Carolina is also holding back on naming theirs. Though if everything's on schedule, the Gamecocks will, in all likelihood, go with their normal rotation of Sanders, Hall, and Mahoney. Clemson might be a little more up in the air because of the way things have gone for them lately, and they might shake things up a little bit. But I think both coaches are waiting to see what the weather looks like, and I think Kingston is waiting to see. I think he's waiting to see what happens with the pitching plans from up in the upstate. We heard from Kingston earlier today at a press conference over at USC, and no major news coming out of it, just talking about the weekend series. We also met with Shane Beamer, and we'll bring you some of that at 7:05. We have a very tight show tonight. Don't know that we'll get to any phone calls. I see lines are lighting up as we speak. But we just have such a jam-packed show for you tonight. Mike Morgan's going to kick it off here early. He needed an early appearance tonight. So around 6:15, we'll bring Mikey on for Mikey on the Move here on Sports Talk. Then Coach Kingston. Then at 7:05, some of the Shane Beamer comments. No real major news there. A couple of players had some minor offseason surgery that will keep them out of the spring practices, which start on the 16th. Tonka Hemingway and Kaysen Henry. Otherwise, they're in good shape. Mo Kaba's looking good coming off his ACL. Jordan Strawn looking good coming off his ACL. Both should be able to participate to some degree in spring practice. So we'll hear some of that tonight as well. Then Coach Bakich at 7:30. Jim Corbett, we will have Jim with us tonight as they have gone to the jury in Walterboro. The final arguments delivered today in the Murdaugh case. We'll bring you some of what Jim had to say about all that coming up a little bit later on as well. Plus, if we can get it in, we didn't get to Monty Lee and Dawn Staley last night. Their thoughts are still good. They're still fresh, and we'll try to get some of that to you tonight as well. So as you can tell, we are jam-packed, filled up, full up to the brim tonight. Plus, we got a lot of interesting news notes to get to for you as well. In fact, we'll touch on some of those here in just a moment. And we got basketball going on, too. Got to keep an eye on some of the basketball games taking place tonight as well. You got SEC women's basketball. Hopefully no brawls there today like there was yesterday. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with women getting down and getting dirty and throwing down a few fisticuffs here and there if they're passionate about winning their basketball games. That's what we had yesterday at the SEC. I'll tell you that already today in Greenville, Arkansas beat Missouri 85-74. So the Razorbacks, they get the Gamecocks tomorrow at noon. South Carolina in the regular season beat Arkansas by 46 points. Doubled the score on them, or pretty much doubled the score. Yeah, they did double the score. I think it was 92-46, right? Isn't that doubling? Yeah, 46 times 2, carry my 1. That's a 92 right there, boys and girls. So, yeah, Gamecocks in Arkansas tomorrow at noon. Texas A&M has beaten Mississippi State 79-72 to advance. Auburn has taken an early 5-0 lead on Georgia, and Kentucky and Alabama will be coming up later on. The ACC tournament today. You've got NC State beating Syracuse 83-58, and Clemson is playing right now. They are into the second day, and they're playing North Carolina. That game is just tipping off, so we'll keep you up to date on that as it progresses. And we got some other basketball, some other of the lower level tournaments, I guess you should say. Some of the lower level tournaments continuing or getting underway. We'll keep you up to date on that as well. As a matter of fact, Clemson, North Carolina, go ahead and give you a quick score there. It's 10-9 in the first quarter there. 5:52 to go in the first quarter, and North Carolina leading. Now Clemson has taken the lead 11-10. So the Lady Tigers are hanging in there. You got North Carolina Central and South Carolina State playing tonight. You've got Charleston Southern, which won last night in the Big South, is playing UNC Asheville tonight, and that's the other local stuff that we have for you in basketball tonight. So we are going to take a look at a couple of the other top stories of the day before we get ready for Mike Morgan to join us here in just a little bit. So a few other notes that I want to pass along to you from today. Jalen Carter, the Georgia defensive tackle, turned himself in last night on those two misdemeanor charges of reckless driving and racing. He was booked at Athens Clark County Jail 11:33 p.m. last night. Released about 11:49 p.m. He posted a bond of $4,000 for the two charges. I could make I'm not going to make a snide comment there related to NIL and all that kind of stuff. Not appropriate, but I could, but I won't. Clemson announced today that the basketball game against Notre Dame on Saturday night is a sellout. Now, last night in the ACC, Notre Dame did Clemson a little bit of a favor by getting an upset win, and the Tigers right now, they are tied for fourth in the ACC standings with Duke, but they have the tiebreaker over Duke. I think it was Pittsburgh that lost last night to Notre Dame. And so Pittsburgh is just a game ahead of Clemson. And then Virginia and Miami are at the top, but they have the tiebreakers over Clemson. So if the Tigers can beat Notre Dame Saturday, all right, to get to 14-6 in league play, and then Pittsburgh will finish up at Miami. Okay, you gotta like the Tigers' chances. They would have the tiebreaker over Miami. They could finish third in the ACC, which is one of their best finishes ever, short of the year they actually won the ACC regular season when Cliff Ellis was the coach. And so something we'll pick up on probably next week. What does Graham Neff do about Brad Brownell, and when does he do it? I mean, do you wait to see what the NCAA selection committee says? Do you reward him prior to the ACC tournament? Do you do nothing at all? Is he worthy? Is he deserving of something being done to his contract? 21-9, probably going to be, well, they should beat Notre Dame. Let's say they do what they should do. 22-9 and 14-6. He's the all-time winningest coach at Clemson. Probably has more 20-win seasons than anybody else. Why wouldn't you reward him? Unless he's interested in going somewhere else now. So we'll see what happens. That's going to be something to watch. That's going to be a very interesting story over the next couple of weeks as we see how the season plays out for Clemson. And as we talked about last night, and even Tim Beray's been tweeting out stuff, no surprise, but Tim's been tweeting out stuff in support of Clemson making the NCAA tournament and, pointing out how the Tigers have got this, that, and the other over these teams rated ahead of them in terms of the number of wins. And we pointed out last night, look, they've beaten Pittsburgh, they've beaten Duke, they've beaten NC State twice by an average of 19.5 points. Yet those teams in the bracketology world are listed ahead of them. Yeah. Now, look, if you just go simply by the net, then you're going to go simply by the net. Clemson's at 64, and they trail all those folks in the net. I don't know that I trust the net. I mean, really, they look at such meaningless stuff when it comes to formulating the figure for the net. Like margin of victories, home and away, opponents' margin of victories, opponents' records, opponents' records. All these. Why not just look at what the team has done head to head against people and maybe give that a little more weight than you do all this other stuff? Somebody at MIT must have sat down one day and said, here is a great way to figure out who should get into the NCAA tournament. So we'll see what happens. They first have to take care of their business, and they came up short against Virginia the other night. That would have been a huge win for them. But take care of business on Saturday against Notre Dame, and they should be in good shape. All right, let's hit the break. When we come back, Mike Morgan will join us here. Morgan on the move here on Sports Talk. Mike's been busy. He's got the Gamecocks and Georgia on Saturday in Columbia. And, of course, he had the Gamecocks the other night down in Mississippi as well when they played Mississippi State. And so we'll get his thoughts on the way these things are shaping up as far as the tournament is concerned. By the way, our phone number when we can get the calls is 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number right here on Sports Talk. And since 2002, more than $829 million in lottery proceeds have been used to fund lottery tuition assistance for students attending technical colleges in South Carolina. Learn more about the lottery's impact at seducation.com/education wins. And playing for fun is a doggone win for education. We'll be back. Mike Morgan on the move coming up here on Sports Talk.
George Bryant here with Tsunami Bar Sports, and wow, Tsunami Robbie, there is now an amazing technology that you can use when you train receiving large game without having to endure pain. Please explain.
George, that is the magic combination. I have three simple words to define that entire concept. Stimulation, not annihilation. Regardless of your training goals, there is a level of stimulation that is optimal for your desired gains. Tsunami Bar's flexible bar technology meets these demands because the user determines the level of stimulation with the amount of speed and force they impart into the bar or training device.
Hey, this is Phil Kornblut. The Tsunami Bar is a terrific training device, whether you're working on your fitness or your golf game. It's convenient, it's easy to use, and you won't feel beat up afterwards. Be sure to click on the digital ad on sportstalksc.com and get 5% off any order using promo code BBB5. Don't wait. Order today.
Show your team pride wherever you go with Founders Federal. Get your University of South Carolina and Clemson University debit cards. Calling 1-800-845-1614. Plus, our debit cards. However you please. Not a member? Visit relaxjoinfounders.com. To see if you qualify for membership. Terms and conditions apply.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice.
Back we are on Sports Talk Media Network across the state of South Carolina. Hey, the summertime will be here before you know it. Had somebody call me the other day asking for the number for Jimmy Smith and James Smith Real Estate down in Pawleys Island because they want to go down to the beach for vacation and they want Jimmy to put them up in a great spot. And you can do the same thing. Now, you don't have to come through me. You can go right to Jimmy yourself. His phone number is 843-237-4246, 843-237-4246. You'll get right to Jimmy and tell him what you're looking for. A house, a condo, whatever the case may be, something that is really, really big or something that's a little more moderate for you, something for a long stay, a week or two, a month, maybe something for a weekend. He can take care of whatever you need. A lot of coaches, Gamecocks, Tigers, Coastal Carolina, a lot of other coaches take care of their business at the beach through Jimmy Smith. and you can do the same. That phone number again is 843-237-4246, online at pauliesvacationrentals.com. Your perfect beach getaway is just a phone call away. All right, it is now time for another edition of Morgan on the Move here on Sports Talk. He's brought to you by Brent Skinner. Brent has not only become the leader in Columbia for the very best in men's clothing, but clients nationally have come to know Brent, and he has you covered if you want to look your very best. Brent and his staff provide you with professional and individual attention to create a wardrobe that distinctly identifies you, from custom suits and shirts to the very best in shoes and accessories. It's all under one roof. If you can't make it to the Columbia store in the Vista, Brent will be happy to come to you. Set up an appointment today at bpskinnerclothiers.com. And Mike will be back in Columbia on Saturday for the Gamecocks finale against Georgia. He can go by Brent Skinner Clothiers and get a refresh on everything that makes Mike look like Mike. Mike, welcome in. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
We're just doing fantastic. Enjoyed watching you the other night. Let's see. I know you did South Carolina, Mississippi State, correct?
That's right.
Yep. Thought I saw you there. And then did I see you somewhere else? Were you somewhere else?
Well, I've been a few places, but I mean, the other one that you might have paid attention to was South Carolina, Alabama, which was, I think we talked about that the last time I was on.
Yeah.
We did. And then, I had Florida Vanderbilt, I think the following Saturday, and of course Vanderbilt after beating Kentucky last night. Jerry Stackhouse's team has won 7 of 8. They're as hot as anybody in the league right now, and I think one of the better stories nationally.
Yeah. The tournament next week is just going to be a big mishmash. I mean, you really, with Tennessee losing their star guard, with Kentucky looking vulnerable, with Arkansas able to play great defense, but maybe not as great as they normally are. Texas A&M, looks kind of imposing. Mississippi State can beat anybody. Of course, there's Alabama, which would you say they're head and shoulders above the field, or will they have trouble with some people?
Well, I think you mentioned a couple of teams that can beat anybody. I still think Alabama is not only head and shoulders above the field in terms of talent. I think they're the most talented team in the country. Doesn't mean they're going to win it. We see the number one teams lose conference tournaments all the time. It's not exactly a novel concept, and there are capable teams that you mentioned in this league that can do it. Tennessee just lost Ziegler for the year, though. I already had my doubts about them offensively, and now you take away their starting point guard. I think that's kind of crippling, to be honest with you. I don't think a Final Four is a realistic goal for a team that many people had as a number one seed a few weeks ago. But I still like A&M. I know they're kind of flying under the radar. I still think Arkansas can be dangerous when they play together. And even a team like Vanderbilt. I mean, I wouldn't want to play Jerry Stackhouse's squad right now. I really wouldn't. So I think there's a few teams in there that are dangerous. But the thing about the format is, again, it's just such an advantage when you're able to sit out those first couple of games. When you've got the double bye, like the top 4 seeds do, I don't think anyone is going to win this thing that doesn't have at least one bye, if not 2. So the double bye teams, to me, really have such a distinct advantage.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Gamecocks. You've seen them a lot lately. You mentioned Alabama, and they played them into overtime in losing. Mississippi State, they were right there until they went into a turnover fest down the stretch. They've got Georgia at home tomorrow. They have not played well at home against anybody, and they haven't won a game at home this entire calendar year. So this is their last chance. But my question is, you've seen a lot of Lamont Paris. You've seen a lot of the Gamecocks. You probably have an excellent feel on Lamont Paris as a coach and how he's kind of held this team together as best he could and what he's trying to build for the future. With or without G.G. Jackson next year, what do you see as far as how he's coaching and kind of the culture he's trying to instill there at South Carolina?
talking about this the other day, and this will sound kind of crazy on the outset, but let me try to make it sound a little more palatable. Look, in a perfect world, if this were 10 years ago, Gigi Jackson would come back for another year. He'd only be 19 years of age. He clearly has room to improve. And the NBA, unless you were like a Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett type, which he's not, you wouldn't draft a guy like that in the first round. That's not the case anymore. So I don't blame Gigi Jackson for leaving, and he's going to leave. He's not transferring, and he's not coming back. He's going to be in the draft, and he's going to be selected, and he's going to make a lot of money. I don't know how much of an impact he'll be his first year or two in the league, but I do know that every piece of logic says he gone. Okay, so now he is a fantastically gifted athlete that would be a whole lot of fun to watch next year. Selfishly, I'd love to see it, but I don't think it's happening. All right, so how do you go from that to losing one of the most highly touted recruits in the history of the program to being better next year? They're going to get players in the portal. They're going to implement a couple of freshmen as well, and they're going to return some key players like a Michi Johnson, like a Jacoby Wright. And I will put my money where my mouth is on this. They will be a better team next year. They will win more games next year. They will be more competitive next year. Mark it down. I said it on your show here on March 3rd, 2023. It will happen next season.
Actually, it's March 2nd.
Coach.
It's actually March 2nd.
Is it the 2nd?
It's the 2nd.
Well, heck, I'm predicting the future. I'm going to actually make that prediction tomorrow on March 3rd. This is just a dress rehearsal, right?
Right.
We're not live on the air, right?
This is the trial. This is the trial balloon.
Yeah, the trial balloon.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, when I'm on your show, I am going to predict that they will win more games. No, I mean, look, Lamont Paris. To answer the other part of your question, there's no question he can coach, and I see it firsthand, and I see the foundation that he's building. This was a no-win situation this year for anybody who had this job, anybody. But I certainly see the direction that he's going, what he's trying to implement. I think he will implement it, and I think when he has some players, they'll be able to do more damage. So, it's funny. I was just talking about Jerry Stackhouse. I mean, there are people that wanted Jerry Stackhouse fired the first couple of years. This is year 4 for Jerry, so it didn't happen overnight. Matt McMahon of LSU is probably going to have the worst season of anybody in the SEC. Matt McMahon can coach. I'm here to tell you, he can flat out coach. But it's year 1, and the way it's set up right now, when you take over one of these programs, you don't have enough time to hit the portal. Those guys have already been taken, so you're just kind of stuck with what's left over. And unless you're somebody like, for example, Chris Jans at Mississippi State, their top 4 players all stayed. That is almost unheard of. That just doesn't happen, but it happened there. And quite frankly, the 4 players that they had were better than most of what Frank had last year. I mean, there was no Tolu Smith on Frank's roster. There was Jermaine Couisnard. So it's a different situation. It was going to be a difficult job for whoever stepped in, but I think Lamont will actually do a great job in time.
All right, got about 30 seconds. Give me your long shot for the SEC tournament next week.
Oh, A&M.
Okay.
I still think A&M is a problem. And they have a bunch of veterans, and Buzz Williams is a very good tournament coach. Remember last year they made it to the championship game. I'll go with A&M.
Sounds like a good pick. Mike, thank you very much. Have a great weekend here in Columbia. I'll be up at Clemson, South Carolina baseball on Saturday.
Wow.
I know that you'll be envious of that. And,
sure.
And
good luck with that.
But we wish you well on your stay in Columbia and refreshing your wardrobe while you're here in town. And I don't know, maybe
always
run by Jimmy's Mart on Two Notch Road and pick up a couple of hot dogs while you're here.
I do like hot dogs. I'm not familiar with Jimmy's work, but it sounds like a plan.
Oh, excellent hot dogs. And they're pretty hot in selling lottery tickets, too. They sell a lot of big winners.
Oh, good. Well, good. That sounds like a very wholesome place for the whole family.
All right. You have a good one. We'll talk to you next week. Mike Morgan on the move here on Sports Talk. We're on the move. Mark Kingston coming up after the break.
On-Point weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. We're cloudy with a few showers possible. The low dips down to 63. Tomorrow, things could get a bit nasty. Storms in the afternoon and the evening. Very windy conditions. Wind gusts up to 40 miles per hour. It won't last, though. The weekend looks great. Sunshine Saturday and Sunday and temperatures in the low 70s. I'm Kevin Cohen with your On-Point local weather.
Dave Ramsey here. Do you want your money to work for you rather than you working for your money? Go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank and have been serving the Midlands since 1936, offering good old-fashioned customer service and free services. They'll look out for your financial well-being. With 14 locations, check them out today at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting President Biden says he is willing to sign a Republican-sponsored resolution blocking new District of Columbia laws that would overhaul how the nation's capital prosecutes and punishes crime. Mr. Biden tweeted, "I don't support some of the changes D.C. Council put forward over the mayor's objections, such as lowering penalties for carjackings." Former Vice President Mike Pence isn't saying whether he'd back Donald Trump if Trump were to be the Republican presidential nominee in 2024. Pence is widely expected to seek the nomination himself, and he's suggesting that Trump's leadership style isn't what the Republican Party needs in the upcoming White House race. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 341 points, the Nasdaq rose 83, the S&P 500 advanced 29, oil up to $78.16 a barrel. This is SRN News.
Fran Halloran here. Now listen closely to what I'm about to say. I'm a business owner, and many of you listening right now, you're business owners as well. The first rule in owning a business is this: don't waste money. I see business owners waste their marketing dollars all the time. Not me. I figured out a long time ago, 8 years ago to be exact, that spending my marketing dollars at the point was not only intentional, but extremely profitable as well. If you're a small business owner, you owe it to yourself to sit down with Kevin Cohen and ask him to create a custom marketing plan for your business. He's looking for folks just like you who believe in local to partner with him in 2023 and beyond. Trust me when I tell you, partnering with The Point works. You will see results and your marketing budget will no longer be wasted. Give Kev a call at 803-563-8558 and tell him the Money Coach sent you.
I get frustrated when I see people I care about getting scammed or at least misled. Some of these national spots, some of these celebrity endorsements about Medicare, they can be really misleading. I've worked with Tim Hanberry and the team at Medicare Blueprint for some time now. They've helped me so much, and in more ways than one. First, they've eased a lot of stress when it comes to helping my family find the right insurance for ourselves and in the recent past with my mom and for many friends. Plus, they've saved us so much money by educating me on what we can do to get the best health insurance at the best price. Bet you think I've had to pay Medicare Blueprint and Tim a ton of money for all the help they've given? Nope, not a penny. Their service for you is just as free as it's been to me. You are a parent coming off an employer plan. Let Medicare. Hello? Good. How you guys doing? My pleasure. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, no. Don't be baiting any hooks now, sir. That with the hot bath and all that nonsense?
Yeah. What year was that? Okay, we're back on Sports Talk here on the Sports Talk Media Network on a very busy Thursday night. Let's continue on a roll here. We go from Mike Morgan to welcoming in USC baseball coach Mark Kingston to Sports Talk once again. It's the big series every year, South Carolina and Clemson getting at it. We hope tomorrow night up at Doug Kingsmore, Saturday over at Fluor Field in Greenville, Sunday here in Columbia over at Founders Park. And Coach Kingston joins us to help set the stage. Good evening, sir. How are you? Coach, are you with me?
Hey, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We got you. How are you?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
We're great. We're great. Appreciate you so much for joining us. Let's begin with, I guess, the big issue of the hour, and that is, what are you hearing weather-wise? I know there's going to be some weather in the upstate, maybe some big stuff. Have you guys talked a little more this afternoon, this early evening, about what you're looking at and what you might have to do?
Nothing new since we did the press conference a few hours ago. It seems to be pretty status quo. As of right now, our plan is to get on the bus about 1 o'clock tomorrow and head that way until we hear different. So I think we're all hoping if they do get rain, it's earlier in the day and it's out of there by game time. So as of right now, that's how we're operating.
How does it work between you and any team when you're looking at a situation with weather? How do you decide when to call it, and what is some of the determining factors that will lead to a postponement?
Yeah, it's always the onus of the home team to make that decision, especially when it's a team coming from a ways away. The home team is responsible for their home field and determining if it's playable or not. So as a visitor, you're kind of at the mercy of whoever the home team is and their judgment on how much water their field can take. When did you get the tarp on? There's a lot of different factors that you look at. As the visitor, you plan on going mentally until you're told not to. So most of the time, it's the home team communicating with the visitors that it's a go. Come on and get on the bus and come on up, or it's not looking good. We're going to have to reschedule.
Good thing for you is you'd be going up anyway, since you're going to be playing in Greenville on Saturday early afternoon, right? So it doesn't affect your travel plans.
Correct. We will be staying in a hotel tomorrow night. So my guess is we'll head that way, in the hopes that we'll get to play Friday night. And if we don't, we'll still stay overnight and get ready to play on Saturday. So that part of the trip will not change.
How does a potential postponement tomorrow night affect your pitching plans?
Well, I don't want to give you all the secrets, Phil, because I know those secrets could head up north pretty quickly. That's something we've talked about that a little bit, about what would our strategy be if a game got postponed, or if we're only going to play 2 games on the weekend. We've bounced a couple ideas off the wall, as a staff, on what we could do, and whether which of the 2 guys still start this weekend, which one would go to the bullpen. But that's what would happen. You'd end up only starting 2 of the 3 weekend starters. The other one would go to the bullpen, and then it's just a matter of, as a coaching staff, deciding what makes the most sense, who's most ready and who would be the best fit to come out of the bullpen, who's done it in the past, which starters do you like matchup-wise. So everything is always on the table when you have to make adjustments on the fly.
Let me just say that looking at some probables in the game notes, of course, with you guys, it's Sanders, Hall, Mahoney, but like you said, whichever 2, if it's a rainout, whichever 2 you decide to use. And right here, we see Clemson listing Austin Gordon for Friday and Tristan Smith, a lefty, for Saturday, and then TBA for Sunday. That's just in the game notes, and we know that can be fluid, of course. How are you feeling about your team now? Look, you're 9-0, and 9-0 is 9-0, and but do you feel good? Is it a good feeling 9-0 for you at this point as you go into this series?
Yeah, it is because of the manner in which we've won most of these games. You can be 9-0 and barely squeak by most of them. But for the most part, we've taken care of business the way you should take care of business. We've had our share of blowouts. We had a couple close games that we played really good pitching and defense and scored enough and played the game right situationally to win a couple close games. which you're going to have. It doesn't matter who's playing. If you play enough games, there are going to be a couple close games where, your line drives are caught, or the wind holds up home runs, or you don't get the lucky bounces. Whatever the case may be, you're going to have some close games, and we've won those. We had a game or two that was close, maybe in the 6th or 7th, that we were able to pull away. And then, of course, we've had our share of blowouts, where we're just, really taking care of business. So I think if you look at the offensive stats, the pitching stats, the defensive stats, they're all exactly where you would hope that they would be 9 games into a season.
Well, you have been swinging a very mighty bat to this point. Team batting average of 322, 27th best in the country. I'm going by memory here. Number one in number one in home runs going into the week or after your last game with 27 home runs. You're among the the national leaders in being hit by pitches, drawing walks. You're among the national leaders. Slugging percentage, on base percentage, stolen bases. I think you're perfect. There's nothing really to pick away at from an offensive standpoint, is there?
No, but that being said, I still think we can get better, because Horning and Stone especially have gotten off the slow starts, and I think they'll be better than they have been. So I would like to see us just really get all 9 guys in the lineup swinging the bats well at the same time, because I think that will serve us well, and that will make us an even better offense. I don't expect, some of the guys that are hitting 450, I don't expect that to continue all year, but I also don't expect Stone and Horning to struggle as much as they have either. So that stuff will balance itself out. But, the home runs has been a very, very pleasing thing to see. I think we've already hit half the home runs that we hit all of last year, or pretty darn close to it. And we know Founders Park plays a lot smaller as the year goes on, because as it gets warmer, the wind starts to blow out. So I think that's been a nice development with the guys we've added to the team this year.
Yeah, the guys you've added, the transfer guys in particular, they're delivering for you. And what about Will McGillis? I mean, his first at bat as a Gamecock, he hits a homer. He's continued to hit home runs and hit for good average for you. When you looked at him in the portal and you did your scouting report on him, what did you see, and are you seeing that play out in front of you in a Gamecock uniform?
Yeah, for sure. He hit 16 homers last year. So you're talking about the guys now hit 22 homers in the equivalent of maybe 65 games between last year and the 9 games this year. So it's a real power hitter. It's real bat speed. He's got loft power. He plays very mature on the field in terms of his defense, his base running. He's a very calm, mature presence among his teammates, and he's been everything we hoped he would be. Obviously, when his name first came across our desk from the portal, the 16 home runs stood out. But then as we dug into the kind of kid he was and the kind of leader he was on a super regional team at Southern Miss, it became a no-brainer for us, and we went after him hard.
Yeah, Caleb Denny, 37-game on-base streak. Not to mention everything else he's been doing for you. 429 batting average, a couple of homers, scored 12 runs. What do you like about this kid? And obviously he's given you everything you thought you might get.
Yeah, I could say a lot of the same things about him as I just said about McGillis. I mean, we've planted him in the 3-hole from the very beginning. He hits for power. He has speed. He's driven in a bunch of runs, and he also has 5 or 6 stolen bases. And he's played really good defensively. So again, another mature presence. We just needed to add to the mature presence in our offensive lineup this year, just so we could grind out at bats much better than we have. And we're definitely seeing that. You mentioned the hit by pitches. You mentioned the walks. And then when you add power to that, that's a recipe for scoring runs. And again, I don't anticipate we'll walk or homer at quite the rate we have early, but when you have mature, talented hitters, you tend to have this type of success.
Of course, the pitching, can't overlook that. We knew going into the season that your pitching could be a strength, if not the strength. I think it's lived up to the billing, a 2.00 ERA through 9 games. And, I mean, are you getting what you thought you would get from your arms?
Yeah, and I say it again. I think we can be better there. I think Will Sanders will be better than he's been. I think Eli Jerzenbeck will be better than he's been. James Hicks has been exactly what we hoped he would be. Noah Hall has been spectacular. And I think Jack Mahoney will continue to get better as the season goes on because he's a guy that missed all of last year with the Tommy John surgery. So the further you get from those injuries, the better off you'll be. So it's been very, very solid so far, and obviously a 2.0 ERA I think is maybe in the top 2 or 3 in the SEC right now. But I think a lot of guys on our staff can be better than they have. So I think that's very encouraging.
All right. And talking with Coach Mark Kingston, South Carolina coach, getting ready for the series with Clemson. Have you pretty much settled on Kate Austin as your closer, or too soon to identify anybody?
Well, if you look at the stats, you'll notice Veach has 2 saves so far. Matthew Becker has 1, and Kate Austin obviously was our closer last year. But it's going to be a closer by committee for a little while. Those guys are all more than capable of doing it. Veach has been the hot hand early on for us with the 2 saves. Matthew Becker has gotten saves in the past and has one this year, and Kate Austin has been very reliable as well. And then you also look at Hicks and Jerzenbeck, who may go from midweek starters to the back of the bullpen. So we'll match it up for a while until somebody really takes the bull by the horns there to say that they have to be the closer. Otherwise, we'll kind of go with matchups, and we'll go with the hot hand because they're all capable.
You know, I know in Major League Baseball, because they play so many games and they play each other so many times, you can look at a guy who hits a particular team particularly well and get him in the lineup. But Michael Braswell, who's not playing a heck of a lot for you this year, did so last year, but against Clemson, he hit .615 last year as a freshman. I mean, do you look at that and think, maybe I could slip him in there at some point in time and see if that continues, or is that hard to do in a college setting?
Yeah, it's a lot different in a college setting. You're talking about in the American League East, the Yankees and the Red Sox might play 20 times in a season. I think is the number somewhere in that area. 3 games over a weekend a year ago. That's a little bit different in terms of a sample size. And Michael's working hard, and he's doing everything he can to get on the field. But right now, Wimmer is just playing so well, and McGillis is playing so well, and LeCroy's been well over 300 with a 500 on base percentage. It's just been, it's been a lot of competition on the team right now. And the guys that have been playing the best through the fall and the spring are the guys playing right now. But as I tell our guys all the time, whatever we're doing is current. It's never permanent. So it's up to Michael to just keep working hard. And when he gets his opportunity, make sure he makes the most of it.
Sure. Last thing from your scouting report on the Tigers. I know that they've lost 4 in a row after opening with 4 straight wins. And so people are like, well, they must not be very good, blah, blah, blah. But I know you don't look at that. You look at deeper stuff. What do you see in this Clemson team that concerns you the most?
Well, it's a talented team. They have good arms, good power arms. The Gordon kid, the Smith kid, who we'll see for sure on Friday and Saturday. Those are both really good arms. They'll be in the mid-90s. So we respect that. It's an athletic team. They steal a lot of bases. They play really good defense. And they're left-right balanced throughout the lineup. So, we know a lot of the names just from the recruiting process. There's a lot of South Carolina kids on that roster. So a lot of respect for the program, the kids on the field. And so I think it'll be very close, hardly fought ball games like it always is.
All right, Coach. Well, as I said at the press conference, you and Coach Backett, you're not doing a good job with the weather at this point. I hope that improves over the next few hours and we can get everything in on time and we don't have to stretch this thing out like we did a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully the weather agrees with us because we all want to see 3 great ball games this weekend.
We will see you whenever it's played and wherever it's played. We'll be there to cover it. We thank you so much for joining us tonight. Best of luck to you.
All right, Phil. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you, sir. As always, appreciate it. Okay, Coach Mark Kingston joining us here on Sports Talk, and we mentioned the Clemson rotation that had been announced just a few minutes ago, and I was a little bit surprised with what I saw. Pat, you've seen something being reported related to the Clemson rotation. Let me mention again, for those who might have just tuned in and didn't hear me mention this, that the Tigers are slated to start righty Austin Gordon and lefty Tristan Smith, and then a TBA. I was wondering about Ryan Ammons and why he wasn't listed, and there's a story out about that.
That's right. I'm seeing this here from Matt Connolly on on3.com. he's reporting that Clemson ace Ryan Ammons is not going to be available for he will miss Friday night's scheduled start against rival South Carolina. He is not available. I'm not seeing here any specific reason what the injury may be, but it does look official now that he will miss Friday night's start for the Tigers in this big pivotal series against the Gamecocks. The lefty is currently 1-0 on the season with a 2.70 ERA.
Well, you know what? If you're Clemson and you're without your number one starter and it's raining like cats and dogs.
Bullpen game.
No, rain out. Because you won't play this game until later in the year. They'll have to reschedule it. Like 2 years ago when the Friday night game was rained out, they didn't play it until like May, I think it was, or sometime in April. My point being, if you're Coach Bakich, and he'll be on with us at 7:35, so we can ask him directly. You might say, okay, we can't play, and so you'll have your other two guys ready to go, and maybe you'll have Ammons ready to go when you play later in the year. Of course, as a midweek game in the midst of a conference schedule, then you might not be willing to use your frontline pitchers.
Now, do you not think there would be a chance of a doubleheader in Greenville on Saturday with that game scheduled for 1 o'clock?
No. No, Clemson's going to have their home game. Greenville's going to have its game, and South Carolina's going to have its home game. No doubleheaders. No, sir. That's not going to happen. But when we have Coach on with us at 7:35, we'll be able to ask him about that. So Matt Connolly writing that story on Ammons. He reached out to some Clemson officials, it says here, and the response he got was a Clemson official declined to comment when asked about Ammons' status. So that leaves the Tigers very inexperienced on the mound with his absence. Okay, hit the break. Be back in just a moment.
Major Billy Downer here from the Department of Natural Resources, and DNR is excited to announce the implementation of Go Outdoors SC, a new online licensing and boat titling system that you can access right from your phone. Through this new system, customers can purchase their hunting and fishing licenses, renew their boats, apply for lottery hunt opportunities, and complete electronic harvest reporting requirements. For more information, visit Go Outdoors SC at your local app store.
Hope, life, and the great Palmetto. What do these things have in common? Scholarship dollars. The SC Hope, the Life, and the Palmetto Fellow Scholarships are funded by the lottery players of this great state. And after 20 years, you've invested over $7 billion in education. $7 billion. Impressive. The South Carolina Education Lottery. When you play, we all win.
Parents ask, what's the best way to save for college? I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus, and my answer is always open a Future Scholar 529 college savings account. It's easy. You can get started online with any amount. It's flexible to adapt to your child's college dreams. And you can deduct 100% of your contributions from the South Carolina state tax return. So what are you waiting for? Go to futurescholar.com and see why it's the smart, easy way to save for college. futurescholar.com.
All right, sticking on the theme of the USC-Clemson baseball game, of course, the backstory here is Monty Lee, USC associate head coach, returning to Clemson right after his season last year with the Tigers, ended his 7-year run as their head coach. He met with the media yesterday, and here are a few of his comments about going back up to where he was the head coach.
You know, for me, I just try to pull on past experiences, and I've had this experience before. Coming from the College of Charleston, when we played the College of Charleston, when I was the head coach at Clemson, I had to experience that, just being in the other dugout and playing against a group of kids that you love, and coaching against a program that you love being a part of. So I've had that experience before. It's a little bit weird before the game starts, just because, as you go into the ballpark or they come into your ballpark, you see the kids and you just remember recruiting them, you remember coaching them, and just being there with them through good times and through bad times and all those special moments that you spend together. So it's really about the people more than the opponent. But once the game starts, look, it's about our team versus their team. It's about our players versus their players, and that kind of goes away, and it's about the competition at that point. So I think really the only weird. I don't know if weird is necessarily the right word. The thing that makes it different is just the relationships, the close relationships, and the bonds that you've had, with those kids, that you coached at your previous stops.
Monty, you mentioned the emotion about it. How personally do you kind of handle those emotions going into a game? And is it easier said than done in the pregame leading up to it, seeing all those guys and probably talking with them? Well,
I think, ultimately it's not going to be about me. I mean, it's going to be about our team and what I'm trying to do to help prepare our guys for a tough series. I think that's my priority and my focus. But ultimately, look, I've been blessed to coach hundreds upon hundreds of kids over the course of my career as a coach. I got into coaching to make a difference in young people's lives and to develop relationships with them and try to help them grow in this game and see them have success. To me, it's just the amount of relationships that I've had because of this game are something that's probably more special to me than anything. So, again, when I see those kids, it's about the relationships that I have with them, how much I care for them as people, even though we're playing against them, right? And again, so for me, that's what it's all about. It's just about the relationships with the kids. But again, once the game starts and it comes to the competition part, again, it's about their players, versus our players, and it's about the competition. It's about the opportunity for both programs and both coaching staffs to be a part of the greatest rivalry in college baseball. It's special. Every pitch of this rivalry weekend is special to the coaches and to the players, and it means a lot to the state of South Carolina. So just to be a part of it is a special thing.
Had to have this one circled on your calendar for a while. I mean, I know that you say that it's not about you, but I mean, I'm sure you're getting reminded from, fans, friends, maybe family as well. Just, how do you deal with that, number one? And number two, when you're on the field on Friday night up there, there's going to be a lot of nostalgia for you too, I would imagine.
Again, I just use my past experiences. That's what I've always tried to draw everything from, is my experiences that I've had over the years. You get those pregame jitters when you go into the ballpark, and I'm sure that, for me personally, I'll probably feel a little bit of that getting off the bus and going into the ballpark. I am human. I'll remember all the great times that I had there. It kind of brings back, all the great memories, that I had while coaching at Clemson. But I've always been able to put all of that aside once the game starts. I mean, I try to remain pretty calm during the game. Obviously, my job is to cheer on the players and try to coach the players during the game. And I feel like I can put those things, to the side and just focus on the game at hand. And it just takes time, right? I mean, it just takes over the years of just doing it. We all have to remind ourselves that coaches, once the game starts, we're pretty dang overrated. The players are the ones playing. We really don't do a whole lot, during the game in terms of how the outcome of the game goes. Again, whatever decisions we make, whatever plan we have, it's about the players executing it. So, my role is going to be to try to help them execute the plan to win a game. And I think I'll be, okay. Once the game starts, it'll be like most games, it's the competition and the heat of the battle between the lines.
All right, Monty Lee. As we go to break, we'll tell you breaking news out of Walterboro. The jury has come back with its verdict in the Alec Murdaugh case. The jury has come back with its verdict in the double murder trial of Alex Murdaugh. And the jury told Judge Clifton Newman that the panel had reached a verdict this afternoon after about 3 hours. Back in a moment.
We do what's supposed to happen here. Thank you for pushing the button. I thank you. Programming thanks you. America thanks you.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. In a surprise move, President Biden will sign a bill that overrides new Washington, D.C. crime laws. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
Joe Biden has long supported D.C. statehood, but the president says he will sign a Republican-sponsored resolution blocking the city's new crime law. At the White House, spokeswoman Karine Jean-Pierre struggled to explain that Mr. Biden still believes Washington, D.C. should govern itself.
The decision that he is making, he's making it for the people of D.C.
In a tweet, the president said he doesn't support a move by D.C. to lower penalties for carjackings. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Retired U.S. Navy Admiral James Stavridis is cheering news that Ukraine recently defeated Russia in a major tank battle. Correspondent Bob Agnew reports.
Admiral Stavridis says several things become clear in watching the Russians lose more than 100 tanks over the past few weeks.
One, the Russian military simply does not appear to be a learning organism.
Making some of the mistakes they made a year ago in a failed bid to take Kyiv. Then there's
will, morale. The Ukrainians are fighting for their lives, for their cities, for their children. The Russians are a bunch of conscripts.
Admiral Stavridis was interviewed by the Salem Radio Network. Bob Agnew, Capitol Hill.
Government regulators are granting California's largest utility an unusual exemption that could allow the state's last nuclear power plant to continue running after the expiration of its federal operating licenses. The decision by Nuclear Regulatory Commission staff represents a key piece of a contentious proposal to keep the Diablo Canyon reactors producing electricity for years to come. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 341 points, the Nasdaq rose 83, the S&P 500 advanced 29. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month.
SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance. For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
The Biden administration has released details of an expanded cybersecurity strategy. Correspondent Jennifer King has more on the story from Washington.
A new White House fact sheet says the world's complex threat environment demands a more intentional, more coordinated, and well-resourced approach to cyber defense. After a spate of ransomware attacks, including the one that paralyzed a fuel pipeline, the Biden administration plans to expand minimum cybersecurity safeguards and work with Congress on legislation that would impose legal liability on software makers whose products fail to meet those minimums. The strategy document says their goal is to make malicious actors incapable of mounting sustained cyber-enabled campaigns that would threaten national security or public safety of the United States. Jennifer King, Washington.
That strategy largely codifies work that has already been underway during the last 2 years. News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. We're cloudy with a few showers possible. The low dips down to 63. Tomorrow, things could get a bit nasty. Storms in the afternoon and the evening. Very windy conditions. Wind gusts up to 40 miles per hour. It won't last, though. The weekend looks great. Sunshine Saturday and Sunday and temperatures in the low 70s. I'm Kevin Cohen with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point. Ooh, I like when you press that one.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil, Chris, and Pat with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Okay, we're back here on Sports Talk in just a moment. We'll let you hear from Shane Beamer. But as we said, going to the top of the hour, the verdict is in the Alec Murdaugh case. And I guess they're going to be announcing the verdict here before too long. And so we'll have that for you if you're not able to find out for yourself. Of course, it's everywhere in the world. I'm sure everybody is covering it. By the way, my mistake of the night, Charleston Southern and Asheville, they play tomorrow, not tonight. Misread that. Charleston Southern won yesterday in the Big South tournament, and they will play Asheville tomorrow in the next round. Before we get to Beamer, let me update some basketball here as well, because we've got some stuff going on. We've got the Clemson women playing as we speak in the ACC tournament, and they trail North Carolina 40-32 with 9:24 to go in the third quarter. So Tigers trying to go back-to-back with wins. Robinson's got 17 of the Tigers' points so far tonight. They're shooting, Clemson is, 50% from the field, and they've pulled to within 40-34 there against North Carolina. Other women's basketball we'll tell you about. We have got, ACC and SEC tournaments going on. At the SEC in Greenville. Earlier today, Arkansas was a winner over Missouri, and we'll get South Carolina tomorrow at noon. Matt Smith will be covering the USC women there. Texas A&M beat Mississippi State 79-72. And in the third quarter, Georgia leads Auburn 40-31. Okay? And let's see. Do we have anything else? Why don't we go to the Shane Beamer audio? So Shane Beamer met with the media today. It was a long day of interviews. They brought in every transferred player who has enrolled in school and brought them in front of the media for the first time so they could be introduced and be asked questions and talked about. Then after that, Shane Beamer came in to give an update on how things are going with the team in the offseason. They're still 2 weeks away from the start of spring practice, so we'll probably meet with him again before they get down to the nitty-gritty of spring practice. But here's what Shane Beamer, some of what he had to say. Everything he had to say is on our website, sportstalksc.com, but here are some important comments from what he had to say today.
There's a lot of new faces, obviously, in our program right now with the incoming freshmen that are here, the new transfers that have come in as well, new coaches and staff members that have come in. So it's I've said it before, we just can't assume that everything is going to go a certain way in 2023 because of what had happened in 2022. We've got a lot of new faces, and it'll be key for us how quickly we can come together as a team, as a coaching staff, and how connected we can get here in a short period of time. And then add to that with the incoming guys that'll be here in June after they graduate high school as well. Excited about the coaching staff that we have intact. The new guys that we've added, the ones that have stayed. We've had coaches on this year's staff that have turned down opportunities in the NFL, turned down opportunities in the SEC, turned down opportunities in the ACC to go places and coach. Just had one this week that turned down a fellow SEC East school. So it's great to know that there's a lot of people that are interested in our coaches. I've said it before, we got a heck of a coaching staff here at Carolina. And when so many teams are trying to hire your coaches, it's a great statement about what we have here at Carolina and where we're going as well. Challenge for us, and I've challenged everybody in our football program since we came back in January, is how can we continue to get better, that we're not staying the same. Don't think that everything, just because something went well last year or worked well last year, that it's just status quo. How can we be better at everything that we're doing? The weight room, the training room, recruiting, coaching, nutrition, you name it, video, on and on and on. So let's find ways to do things better than they've ever been done before. Really pleased with the way that our guys have worked here in the last 2 months. It's a very workmanlike group. I know Coach Day is really excited about this group and the way they've been working in the weight room, and the leadership is coming together on this team right now. We've got a final team workout, or they lifted this morning, a final team workout tonight, and then spring break next week. So it'll be good for our guys to get away for a little bit. And then we come back right after spring break and start practice on the Tuesday that we get back from spring break. So excited to get back out on the field without a doubt. It's exciting to be going into March from a recruiting standpoint, to be able to get young men back on our campus this month. February is a dead period, so we haven't had any prospects on campus since January. So now that we're into March, recruits are able to visit. Got a great group of guys that are planning on coming throughout the month of March and April during spring practice. And anyone else that wants to come on. We got something special going on here at Carolina, and excited to show prospects and their families what we have. A couple just injury updates with our guys as we go into spring practice. Don't anticipate Tonka Hemingway or Kason Henry being able to do anything during spring practice. Both of those guys had a surgical procedure within the last few weeks or last month or so. Nothing major, just to be able to go clean up some things from the end of last season so they can be at their best going in to this season. So they won't participate in spring practice, but will be good to go as we go into the summertime when they get back for summer workouts. Jordan Strawn and Mo Kaba will certainly be limited as they recover from their injuries and surgeries from the 2022 season. Don't expect Mo and Jordan to be able to do much during spring practice, if any, but they're trying to, so we can hopefully get some stuff out of them in practice. But their rehab is going great, and they look great out there. They're moving around well in the limited things that they're able to do. And then same thing with David Spalding. Probably more likely that David will be able to do something in spring practice as compared to Jordan and Mo. With David, potentially the last half of spring practice, we'll be able to get him out on the field and get him going. But other than that, knock on wood, we're in great shape from a health standpoint. Off season's been good. Pleased with the progress we've made, and excited to finish up everything in the weight room this week, and then kind of get into phase 2 for us, which is spring practice. So with that, questions, David?
Shane, as Dowell has gotten in, have you and he, kind of come together on a consensus for what the playbook will look like? And are there certain things that you'll have to maybe table until the summer, like until you get past the second window of the transfer portal?
Yeah, a little bit of both of all that. Certainly we've talked, as far as what we're going to look like going forward. You've obviously got to present an offense to the players in spring practice, what that is. And there's going to be some new things that we call things. There's going to be some things that are identical to what we called them last year. I mean, there's going to be elements that we want to carry over. There's going to be elements that either Dow wants to bring, or that we've looked at as a staff and said we needed to be doing more of this or less of this, like any season as well. Certainly there will be some pieces, some players that, we add to the mix after spring practice for sure. Incoming freshmen, obviously. And, but the bulk of it, will be in. And again, it's why you go out there and practice. We have an idea of what it wants to look like. I was reading some quotes from this press conference. I saw where Trey Knox said we were going to be up tempo and go really, really fast all the time. That was news to me. So I'm glad Trey and Dow have discussed that. Dow and I haven't. But that's another story. But no, I mean, we went fast at times last year, but we want to see what best fits our personnel and what best fits us as a team, offense, defense, and special teams. But yes, we've had some conversations. And again, like I said before, it's what can our players best execute? There's things that we did well last year that we want to continue, and there's some things that, as we sit there and try and make this offense the best it can be for us, that we want to do differently, whether it be terminology or how we call plays, overall operation, things like that we can improve on.
Do you have any kind of an update on the 3 guys who were suspended last month?
Still not a part of our team, still suspended. A lot of those decisions are made. That's a university issue as well, but none of the 3 are currently with us, and don't anticipate them being back with us at any point in the near future, I'll say.
I guess, Shane, from an identity standpoint with Dow, what do those conversations look like about what your identity looks like offensively, regardless of what plays you call, what system you run?
Yeah, probably very similar, Colin, to when I got hired. I mean, balanced. And what is balance? Balance to me is not 50-50. It's the ability to run the ball when you need to run it and throw it when you need to throw it. So we want to be able to do that. We want to be able to be a physical offense that plays really, really hard and has the ability to be explosive. If you go back and look at our success the last 2 years, Colin, I mean, it's amazing. Just look at the explosive plays. For us, that's runs over 12 yards and passes over 18. When we win the explosive play battle in games against our opponent, I mean, our record is it's like lights out how good we are. So continuing to find the ability to be explosive. And then whatever the identity is, quit freaking turning the ball over so much. I mean, it's 2 years in a row we've been last in the SEC in turning the ball over. It's embarrassing. And for me as the head coach, it's really embarrassing that 2 years in a row, no one in the SEC has thrown more interceptions and fumbled the ball given the ball to the other team more than we have. So obviously we haven't done a good enough job the last 2 years, starting with me of coaching that. And it's 2 years in a row we've been, I think in 2022, we led the SEC in takeaways. Excuse me, 2021, we led the SEC in takeaways. 2022, I think we were second in the SEC defensively in takeaways, and we only missed leading it by one turnover, I believe. So we've been dynamic on defense. Let's continue to do that. But then offensively, we got to quit turning the ball over so much. So to me, that's an identity. Quit giving the ball to the other team. Run it when you need to run it, throw it when you need to throw it, and let's continue to find ways to be explosive.
Shane, you enrolled a pretty large freshman class for this January period. What have you seen from the freshman group so far, especially a guy like Pup who had that experience playing at bowl practices to now?
Yeah, it's been easier for Pup because he was around us for a few weeks, and it's a little bit of a smoother transition. They've been great. I think, Coach Day would tell you what we've done with our guys in January and February has been really, 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 really challenging and hard, and we've put everybody on our team in some really difficult, circumstances, like every team does this time of year, trying to build that mental and physical toughness and camaraderie and leadership and finding out who you can count on and things like that. And our guys have been in a lot of situations. And the thing that I would say is just with all those freshmen that came in, the moment hasn't been too big for them, and I've been proud of them. They've been in some tough situations, and they fight, they battle. And they don't look lost, that's to say the least. And then obviously it's a different deal once we start practicing a week from Tuesday, but anticipate them just continuing the progression that they're on right now and continue to get better.
I got two for you. How do you feel about the proposals to speed up the college game and eliminate some plays? And also your thoughts on reports of Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC maybe earlier than expected?
Speeding up the game. Yeah, that was something that we discussed. We had a head coaches meeting, all the SEC head coaches. We were in Birmingham like 2 weeks ago today, if I'm not mistaken, or 3 weeks ago today, whatever day that was announced. As a matter of fact, it came out that night, whenever that was. And that was one of the things that we discussed. And that was my first time hearing about it, to be honest with you. And I'm all for what continues to make Williams-Brice Stadium such an unbelievable fan experience on a Saturday, because it's already elite, and we don't want to lose that. We want to continue to make that the case. And if that means that these games are getting a little bit too long, then certainly, I'm all for looking at ways to adjust it, because there was a study done, and frankly, our games are a lot longer than NFL games, just time length and things like that. And then certainly one area of concern is with the expanded playoff. There's a potential, I think, for teams to play 17 games, I think would be the max. If you played in a conference championship game and then 4 playoff games, I think that's right. That's a lot of football. And when you talk about games that are sometimes close, an offense may play 100 plays and then you times that by 17, that's a lot of football plays. So when you talk about player safety and things like that, those are all things that we certainly need to consider. So I know it's still being discussed, but I can see why. And then in regards to Oklahoma and Texas, I think it's great. I thought it was exciting that they're coming into the league, exciting for our fans to be able to take a trip to Norman, Oklahoma or Austin, Texas, and for them to come here. But then also the way the schedules, it sounds like will be adjusted. We'll be able to get pretty much everywhere in the SEC over a 4-year span or 2-year span, I guess is what it is, 4-year span, that every freshman that came in here would get a chance if he stayed 4 years to see every venue. I think it's good. And certainly we play a really, 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 really challenging schedule every single season. And that's only going to make it more and more challenging, but I'm excited for it when it happens. And And then I got enough to worry about with 2023 right now, but looking forward to getting them in here.
All right, Shane Beamer, all of his comments again up on our website, sportstalksc.com. USC basketball coach Lamont Paris said on his radio show tonight, guard Chico Carter Jr. going to miss the rest of the season after having a procedure on his knee. He hasn't played since February 14th and averaged 9.8 points per game in 25 games. Good outside shooter for the Gamecocks, but he is finished for this season with that knee injury. We're going to hit the break, and we'll be back in a moment. Don't go away.
South Carolina's largest hunting, fishing, and outdoor expo takes center stage at the Palmetto Sportsman's Classic, sponsored by Farm Bureau Insurance. Come on down for a good time with over 350 vendors, dogs competition, extreme raptor show, kids catfish pond, and much more family fun. Hope to see you at the Classic, March the 24th through the 26th at the South Carolina State Fairgrounds.
Life, it has its ups and downs. Sometimes it's little things like hitting every red light or dropping your cell phone. Maybe it's the bills, rent, or pressure at work. But when it comes to the South Carolina Education Lottery, you should never feel like playing will solve everything. The lottery is a game. It's played for fun. So set a dollar amount. Expect not to win and make sure responsibilities, family, friends, and work come first. Visit playresponsiblysc.com.
Hi, I'm Jim Corbett. I've been an attorney for more than 30 years. There's one thing I've learned about injury cases. It's you need the personal touch. You need the lawyer to get to know you and describe your damages. You don't want a case manager talking to an insurance company, then talking to you, and then talking to maybe to a lawyer with limited experience at the last minute to try to settle a case. I talk to you. I find out what your case is about. Jim at JimCorbettAttorney.com. Jim at JimCorbettAttorney.com for your injury cases.
Well, every once in a while, the real world trumps what we do here on Sports Talk. This is one of those nights with the verdict in the Murdaugh case, guilty. Sentencing will be tomorrow. Jim Corbett will join us in the next half hour. I ran across this on Twitter, and it was too good not to play. It's now outdated because the verdict is in. O.J. Simpson went on his Twitter today to give his thoughts on the Alec Murdaugh case. Here's what he had to say.
Hey, Twitter world, it's me, yours truly. Well, a whole lot of people asking me what I think about this Alex Murdaugh trial. I don't know why they think I'm an expert on it, but I got to admit, when he took the stand, a guy who's an habitual liar, I did watch when the trial first started. I watched him take the stand, and I thought it was probably a mistake because the guy is an admitted liar, and it's hard for me to think he could be on the stand 5, 6, 7, 8 days without lying. Question is, what did he lie about? But lying and stealing money is a little different than murder. I realized in watching him testify what he was doing. He was just trying to relate to one or two of those jurors that he was a good old boy. He was one of them. And I'm not sure he didn't succeed in doing that. I am not qualified to really say if the guy did it or he didn't do it. If a juror missed an hour of testimony, they no longer qualified. I've missed days that I haven't watched this. But from what I've seen, do I think it's more likely that he did it? Yes. But more likely equals reasonable doubt. From what I know, I would have to say there's a lot of reasonable doubt there. He's going to go to jail for all the thievery he did, stealing millions of dollars of people. I think he should be looked at more about the death of his housekeeper a few years ago, where he ended up with over $4 million of the insurance money. I think they should take a hard look at that. But it wouldn't surprise me in the least if this guy beats this case. He's going to go to jail. He's going to go to jail for all the money he stole. I'm curious there because I got 9 to 33 years. 33 years because I caught some guys trying to sell my stolen property, and I yelled at them. Even they didn't think I should go to jail, and the judge gave me, just Jackie Glass gave me 9 to 33 years. So I'm trying to see what this guy's going to get. I was up there with guys who had robbed casinos and robbed banks 2 or 3 times, and they had half the time or a third of the time that I got. So I'm always curious to see what kind of time these guys get for stealing millions of dollars. When I caught guys stealing my stolen property, the state of California, after I was convicted, ruled it was my property and they gave it to me. So I have it now. So how do you go to jail for catching guys who are trying to sell your stolen property? Well, nevertheless, I do think this guy more than likely did it. But once again, more than likely, to me, is tantamount to reasonable doubt. It would work against him in a civil trial, but I don't know if it's going to work against him in this criminal trial. Wouldn't surprise me in the least if he beats this. I'm just saying, take care.
he should know about beating the rap in some cases. O.J. Simpson had to play that. I just thought that was too good not to play. Time for recruiting, brought to you by Seawells. It's a roast beef Friday tomorrow at Seawells. Make sure you get out for the buffet tomorrow from 11 to 2. You will not be disappointed. Best buffet in the Midlands, perhaps in the entire state. It's only $13, 11 to 2 tomorrow and every day next week, 11 to 2. And if you need catering, the very best in the catering business, be it for a wedding reception, a birthday party, corporate outing, awards banquet, a business luncheon, whatever, call the catering experts at Seawells at 803-771-7385, online at seawellscateringsc.com. So last night we told you about wide receiver Jonathan Paylor of Burlington, North Carolina, naming a top 8 USC, Clemson, NC State, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Colorado, and Alabama. From his previous top 10 list, he cut Maryland, Tennessee, LSU, and Ohio State. The 8 he has now, he said, are the ones constantly showing love, and they have a good relationship with his parents. He told us last month USC was his favorite. He said last night, after dropping his new list, USC is still the favorite. He says the Gamecocks have done a phenomenal job recruiting him, been great in communication, talking with his father, and they are still out front. He would say North Carolina, NC State, and Clemson have started to really creep up towards them, but he said South Carolina is kind of far out front. He continues to talk to Justin Stepp at USC, but he's also talking a good bit to Clemson now as well. He has just one spring visit set up. That's North Carolina this Saturday. He will set visits with others around his track schedule. He also has got officials to USC June 2nd. Clemson June 2nd and USC June 23rd. West Florence safety Kelvin Hunter said he has set an unofficial visit to Virginia Tech March 23rd and an official visit to USC June 23rd. He also plans to visit Clemson at some point, but no date has been set. USC target athlete David Rodriguez, who USC just offered, moving up a year to the 2025 class. And we signing or announcing, he said, relatively early. USC target defensive end Booker Pickett plans to visit Texas tomorrow. Offensive tackle Mike Williams of Upper Marlboro, Maryland, will be back at USC April 1st. He was in for the junior day, January 21st. He was at Maryland yesterday. He'll go to Miami Saturday, Michigan State on March the 18th, Southern Cal April 8th. He's also picked up an offer from Tennessee. And safety Kamari Nix of Kennesaw, Georgia, plans to visit USC on March the 18th. There you go with the recruiting report for tonight, right here on Sports Talk. After the break, Clemson baseball coach Eric Bakich will join us. We'll get his take on the weather. He's up there. He's watching the radar. We'll see what he thinks about things. We'll also find out what's going on with his pitching situation, as we talked about that earlier. Eric Bakich coming up after the break here on Sports Talk.
On-Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. We're cloudy with a few showers possible. The low dips down to 63. Tomorrow, things could get a bit nasty. Storms in the afternoon and the evening. Very windy conditions. Wind gusts up to 40 miles per hour. It won't last, though. The weekend looks great. Sunshine Saturday and Sunday and temperatures in the low 70s. I'm Kevin Cohen with your On Point local weather.
The pipes burst, you're getting the repairs done. Now it's time for your flooring. This is where the flooring department shines. We don't have a huge multi-million-dollar showroom, but we all buy from the same manufacturers. So why pay more? We're locally owned and have 30 years experience in the flooring industry, and we stand by our work. Get tremendous customer service and great pricing with the flooring department. 951-3567 or online at theflooringdepartment.com. That's 951-3567 or 951-FLOR. The Flooring Department.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting disgraced South Carolina lawyer Alex Murdaugh has been convicted of murder in the shooting deaths of his wife and son. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours before finding Murdaugh guilty of 2 counts of murder Thursday. The tangled case chronicled the unraveling of a powerful Southern family with tales of privilege, greed, and addiction. Murdaugh faces 30 years to life in prison without parole when he's sentenced. The once prominent lawyer also faces about 100 other charges ranging from theft to insurance fraud. Maggie and Paul Murdaugh were killed near dog kennels on their sprawling rural property on June 7, 2021. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 341 points, the Nasdaq rose 83, the S&P advanced 29. More details at srnnews.com.
My brother.
I'm Randy Lawson from the HGO Group. We're your Medicare specialist. Don't get ambushed by the national toll-free companies making promises they can't and won't keep. Let the HGO Group build a relationship with you and handle all of your Medicare needs. We do the work, you pay us nothing. Seriously, we get paid when we find the right plan for you with the right insurance company. Give me a call directly at 851-0219. That's 851-0219. Or visit us online at thehgogroup.com.
Shooter's Choice is calling all hunters. Spring's fast approaching. You need to get ready for that spring hunt fever. Supplies will be hit or miss. There's no place better than Shooter's Choice on Sunset Boulevard, West Columbia. Shooter's Choice will help you get stocked up on all that specialty hunting gear and the ammo you'll need. At Shooter's Choice, they stock Benelli, Beretta, Savage, Franke, Browning, Weatherby, Stoger, TriStar, and even Winchester shotguns. Plus specialty hunting shells. They're coming in every day, and yes, the demand is still extremely high, so it goes fast. A very good reason to be shopping early. There's an experienced crew, second to none, to help you make the right selection. Spend your Red Dot Sight, specialty ammo in stock right now. Check out.
Hello. Hey, Patrick, how you doing? Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, can't wait.
But we're also willing to try new ones too. Come in and get your old standby or have one of our knowledgeable staff members walk you through the humidor to your new favorite. We're at 1410 Colonial Life Boulevard in the same plaza as the Melting Pot Restaurant.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Talk Media Network, leading into the big weekend of baseball. Clemson and South Carolina. I like to call it the Palmetto Base Brawl for it all, because it deserves a quality title, and that's what I give, quality titles. We welcome in Clemson baseball coach Eric Bakich to Sports Talk once again, but for the first time as the Clemson head coach heading into the rivalry weekend. Coach, good to have you with us once again. How are you?
Doing great, Phil. Hey, thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. First of all, we had Coach Kingston on about an hour ago to get his thoughts on things, and we began with the weather report from where he's sitting. But you are at ground zero up there. What's the weather report? What do you think about tomorrow night?
Oh, nothing that can't stop us. Might delay us for a little bit, but we'll be playing tomorrow night for sure.
Now, that is what we want to hear. So you feel really confident we'll be playing tomorrow night?
I do, yep.
The field set up well, draining well, no problems there as far as you can tell?
No, we've had the tarp on it all day and expecting some rain, tonight to tomorrow. But I'm not a not a forecaster, but it looks like it's going to be out of here by tomorrow evening. Might be one of those peel it and play kind of days, but all indications on all apps and looking at everything that we can possibly look at, it looks like the rain will be out of here tomorrow night. And, may not be able to start right at 6:00, but we'll see if we can. If we can, we will. Mm-hmm. If not, and we need to push it back a little bit, I don't think either team will have a problem with playing a little bit later, but we're going to get that game in tomorrow night.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. What is going on with your pitching situation? Notice that no Ryan Ammons in your rotation release this evening. Can you fill us in on what's going on there?
Yeah, that's just a precautionary thing with some soreness and tenderness. But we've got Austin Gordon going tomorrow night with Tristan Smith behind him. We've got Sunday listed as TBA, and just kind of looking at all hands on deck, and kind of shifting around some roles to do whatever we have to do to come out on top tomorrow.
When did Ryan start feeling not right to where you had to set him down here for a little while?
It was just something that had developed after his start last Friday, and we're going to need him for the long haul, obviously, and doesn't look like anything that's going to have him out long term. So just more playing it safe, and hopefully we'll get him back here as quick as possible.
All right. So you guys started out 4-0. You've lost your last four. You're 4-4 coming in. But how are you feeling about the team? I mean, a 4-game losing streak is never something you want to have to deal with. But as you look at the overall body of work, how are you feeling going into this weekend?
Yeah, the last 4 games have obviously been very disappointing. The UCF series, the game was tied after 6 in all 3 games, and those were 3 losses that that we suffered at the end of the game. And I thought we had a chance to really blow the game open early against South Carolina Upstate. And those are quality opponents. That's one thing we've done is the last 4 games have been against good teams, and we unfortunately have not played our best baseball. But I told the team to stay positive, and we will use this adversity to our advantage. It's something that's going to be good for us. Will toughen us up and teach us how to respond. And going into a rivalry weekend like this, it doesn't matter if we're 8-0 or 4-4 or 0-8. It's the team that plays the best is going to win in a rivalry weekend. I remember this series all too well, even though it was 21 years ago, and have followed it very closely over the last 21 years. And it has always been heated. It has always been a battle. We know South Carolina has a great team, 9-0. They've taken care of business. They've got power hitting. They've got power pitching. They look like a balanced, complete team, and we're going to have our work cut out for us. And we're going to have to play well and certainly play much better than we've played the last 4 games.
How do you think your 2 announced starters right now, a couple of young guys, will handle the pressure of that moment of the big rivalry game and getting the ball Friday and Saturday based on what you've got right now? How do you think they'll handle the pressure of that moment?
I think they'll handle it great. It's what we've trained for. It's what we've trained for, really since day one. We've talked about respecting this rivalry and giving this rivalry the respect that it deserves. And the way you respect a rivalry is your preparation. And we have prepared for this. This is not just a week of the South Carolina series. This is something that's just a part of our program. It's ingrained in the foundation of our program. We feel like the fans on both sides feel like this is the best rivalry in all of college baseball, and we have prepared for it and trained for it to respect this rivalry in that way. So, I know college baseball is better when Clemson and South Carolina are two of the top teams in the country. It makes for a great rivalry. It's great for our state, and it's great for college baseball. So we've been preparing for it since day one. Regardless of what age the guys are that are pitching and playing in it, they'll be ready for it as well.
Talking with Coach Eric Bakich of Clemson about the USC and Clemson series coming up this weekend, and looking at some of your offensive numbers, the left side of your infield certainly delivering. Blake Wright at shortstop and Benjamin Blackwell third base, both hitting over 400. And then the freshman behind the plate hitting 424, and Caden Grice at 333. But you're not getting a lot of power. Just 7 home runs thus far. Did you expect going in that this was going to be a team that might hit for some average, but not for a lot of power, or is the power eventually going to show up?
I think this is a team whose power is definitely going to show up. I mean, we've got guys like Caden Grice who have massive power potential, and we've done a really good job, highlighting some strengths in other areas. We've weaponized our speed. We've done a much better job of battling with 2 strikes, cutting down on the strikeouts, putting more pressure on teams, and the power will come. That's just something that I think is, as we get into the season, we'll start to slug a little bit higher. And, our guys have just done a good job of, especially those first 4 games of battling back and being able to utilize, different weapons, whether that's a bunt or a steal or extra 90s or a hit and run. But we definitely want to slug, and we want to do damage, and we want to get our best swing off with less than 2 strikes. And I would say that those power numbers are definitely coming, and the best is yet to come with some of these guys, especially.
Well, your team batting average is 311. That's excellent. But you mentioned the base stealing. You're 6th nationally, 28 stolen bases, caught only twice. So are you giving your guys, most of them, maybe not all of them, but are you giving most of them basically the green light when they get on base? Guys, go for it when you think you have the opportunity?
Some of them do, yeah. Some of them we work on base running every day, and we work on base stealing every day. It's just, we want to pride ourselves on running the bases well, and those have also we've been aggressive and sometimes overly aggressive and ran into some outs. So I think we'll even get better at that part of our game as well as the season goes. It's just one thing that we prioritize is growth and improvement. And when you're on that track, there really is no finish line. It's constant. The target is constantly on improvement and constantly on growth. And, that type of mindset has allowed some of the teams I've been able to coach in the past to surge and continue to get better as the season goes on, and have that surge late in the year when it means the most. And so hopefully this is one of those teams that keeps improving and improves in all areas. But we have been able to utilize the speed and the extra 90s and run into bases well. But we certainly even have more room for improvement in that category as well.
I know it's young, it's a small sample of just 9 games, but your freshman catcher, Cam Canarella, 424 batting average, 7 runs batted in for you, a double, a triple. What do you like about him? Is he the complete package at catcher, can hit, and is also a good defender?
He is the complete package. He's actually playing center field for us, but he has got a slow heartbeat for a freshman. He's got a good left-handed swing. He's one of those throwback baseball players that just can hit line drives from the left field line to the right field line. He's got good speed and just the poise for a young kid, the poise for a freshman. He's able to stay neutral and doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, and just finds a way, what feels like with the unique ability to just stay centered. And that ability is a unique mental toughness that he's got about him that you don't see commonly in freshmen who emotionally may get high and low at times, but he's done a really good job of being able to stay centered.
And I should apologize to Cooper Engel. My bad. I misread my notes here. I saw the C and I was thinking catcher, not center fielder, but still freshman center fielder coming in and playing that well for you. That's impressive. And Cooper Engel's a veteran guy for you behind the plate. He had such a good season offensively last year, maybe not quite the start offensively that he had last year, but a solid guy for you behind the plate.
Yeah, and he's a guy that I would say he's maybe having his best offensive year. And the thing that doesn't show up in the stat sheet is about 8 lineouts that he's hit on the screws. And I mean, just as hard as you can hit balls over 100 miles an hour, that it seemed like every ball that he hit against UCF was right at somebody. But that's one of those guys that the stat sheet doesn't tell the story, because his quality at bats are over 60%, which is very good. It's an elite category. We try to shoot for 50% quality at bats, and he's over 60. And he's a phenomenal hitter. Another guy that's a throwback that just has the ability to go line to line and spray the ball around, and also hit for power. He's hit a home run to the pole side. He's hit a home run right down the opposite field line. But just a gamer, a gritty player, and just one of those guys that we really like him setting the table and hitting in that leadoff spot, just because his plate decisions are really good, and the quality and the consistency of his contact is also really good.
Well, we're looking forward to being up there tomorrow night and seeing you guys in action. We're going to hold you to your word that there will be baseball tomorrow night at Doug Kingsmore. So, what is it? Cross your fingers and pray. What sane and who was it? What's the saying? The old pitching saying, sane and who are the two great pitchers? I know. Come on, Coach, help me, bail me out here. It's
Oh, well, I don't know if I know the saying, but you can just bank on we're playing ball at Doug Kingsmore tomorrow night. It just may be a little later than what's on the schedule card, but we're playing, and everybody can be assured of that. So we're going to do everything in our power to make sure we play ball tomorrow night. And it looks like, just looking at that forecast, that it may be a little later, but we're playing.
Very good. Something insane and pray for rain, but I'm going to pray not for rain tomorrow night. And let's get the pitching on the mound and get going. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Look forward to being there covering you guys throughout the weekend, and we'll talk to you again.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Phil. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. As always. Thank you very much. All right. Coach Eric Bakich joining us tonight from Clemson. Appreciate his time with us. What is that doggone? Something insane and pray for rain. But we're not praying for rain. And Coach Bakich has said they're going to play baseball tomorrow night, so you can make your plans accordingly around that. All right, we thank Coach for being with us. And again, he tells us Ryan Ammons is out this weekend, got a little bit of a arm thing going on that they're just holding him out, but it's not believed to be anything serious there, and they expect him to be back in the near future. So that's why he was not part of the rotation. Okay, let's go to our break, and when we come back from the break, Jim Corbett will join us. The verdict is in. Guilty. 2 counts of murder. Alec Murdaugh. It did not take the jury there at Colleton County in Walterboro very long at all for coming to that conclusion that he was guilty of those charges. We'll get Jim's take on that to wrap things up on a busy Thursday night edition of Sports Talk. We'll be up at Clemson tomorrow night, so we'll see if there's ball going on while we're on the air or ball taking place a little bit after we go off the air. We shall see about that. We'll be back after the break.
George Bryant for Tsunami Bar Sports, our inventor, David Abernathy, has always said Tsunami Bar technology allows us to take the training to the grass. Now I know through my sport of golf that natural agility can be converted to athletic ability. And why is this, Tsunami Robbie?
Transferring the training to the grass. This may be the most undervalued characteristic of the Tsunami flexible bar technology. The Tsunami bar action loads and unloads at the concentric and eccentric transition points. This is what we call reversal forces. And the Tsunami bar is the only bar and training device that I know of that can train these reversal forces adequately at speed.
Hey, this is Phil Kornbluth. The Tsunami Bar is a terrific training device, whether you're working on your fitness or your golf game. It's convenient, it's easy to use, and you won't feel beat up afterwards. Be sure to click on the digital ad on SportsTalkSC.com and get 5% off any order using promo code BBB5. Don't wait, order today.
Parents ask, what's the best way to save for college? I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus, and my answer is always open a Future Scholar 529 college savings account. It's easy. You can get started online with any amount. It's flexible to adapt to your child's college dreams. And you can deduct 100% of your contributions from the South Carolina state tax return. So what are you waiting for? Go to futurescholar.com and see why it's the smart, easy way to save for college. futurescholar.com.
All right, a couple of quick high school championship scores for you. North Augusta defeats Westwood for the girls 4A state championship 42-29. So North Augusta wins the championship. 4A boys game is at halftime. Reading tweets from our man Chris Deering, Irmo leads Lancaster 32-9 at the half. Lancaster has missed its last 17 shots. And so Irmo well out in front. Tim Whipple on his way to another state championship. All right, final minutes of the program. Our buddy Jim Corbett joining us here, great attorney in Columbia, and he's been providing us with insight on the trial, which is now over. Quick verdict, less than 3 hours, Jim. Guilty on both counts. What was your reaction?
Well, it was quick, and I was expecting a little bit more. When I heard that the Judge Newman was going to give the jury until 10 o'clock tonight to deliberate, he was given the opportunity to get it over with if they felt that they could, and they did very quickly. I saw some criticism about the closing arguments of both sides, and I thought a little bit about that. And, Creighton Waters went long, but I think that the obligation of the state to prove their case required him in a circumstantial evidence case to go long. And I started thinking, about the defense and what they were doing. They have the opportunity to go as long as a judge will allow them, which is, in this case, gave a lot of leeway. 6 hours for the closing arguments, for the prosecution total, including rebuttal. And I found myself thinking they're trying to rebut everything because they feel they have to. Every little thing they've got to have a take on. And it's almost like Alex Murdaugh's testimony, his story. For every little thing, he had to have a reason that helps him. And sometimes in trials and in cases, like I tell some of my clients going to depositions, you're not supposed to have a perfect story because nobody lives a perfect life. I mean, you don't sit there and live your life to create the story so that if something bad happens to you, you can file a lawsuit and, prove it in court. And maybe that's part of what set the jury was he seemed to try to have an answer for everything. Now, someone could say, oh, that was something he decided afterward because he was real nervous, because he thought to be a suspect, because he didn't trust law enforcement, because he's on drugs. There's something to be said about that, and you can think it through. But in the end, stuff like that, I think, sits with the jury, and they say, what's the phrase? He doth protest too much, from Shakespeare. So I was a little surprised by the quickness of it. I found myself looking at the testimony earlier this week and seeing that there's rebuttal witnesses, which is after the defense presents their points of view, whatever was raised new by the defense, the prosecution can bring a witness to try to rebut that. And then, of course, the defense has a chance to ask a few questions. There's at least one witness where the defense attorneys on the cross-examination of the rebuttal witness went longer than the prosecution. And it's like they're trying to disprove everything that was being said that didn't agree with Alex Murdaugh's story. And I think that might have been a factor in the jury's reasoning, because they have to, because if they don't do that, then it all seems to make sense, even though it is all circumstantial. So those are a couple things that struck me about this week, and the rebuttal, and then the closing arguments. Now, going to Moselle is unusual, and I'm sure you picked up on that and heard it, but it does happen. And typically it is in something like a murder case when the scene could be helpful to the jury. And I think Judge Newman stated in open court, if either side asked the jury to go there, we're not going to have some sort of debate among the jurors. They're going. And today, the state of South Carolina got lucky today. The people in Collin County, especially the clerk's office, got real lucky today. You know that juror was dismissed? There was a juror who was dismissed for having, I think the judge cited 3 conversations with someone about the evidence in the case. And it could have been innocuous and it could have been unintentional, but that was the grounds to remove her. If she had, I think it was a she, had done this and not be known until after the verdict came out, it's grounds for appeal. So I think that's another thing that, we as a state got lucky, because that's not going to be the reason why the Supreme Court sends back for another retrial. Because they found out and she did not take part in the deliberations. What did I say 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago? Every time they go out, the judge says, don't talk about this case. Well, last day she ended up doing it. So, but that's why he picked so many alternates. He picked how many was it? At least 3 alternates to sit there. Usually in a typical civil case or even a criminal case, you have 1, sometimes 2 alternates. But there were more than 3. I'm sorry, there were on 4 or 5 of them. I can't remember how many. And everyone's going to start thinking about appeal, right? Phil, you want to know, hey, can they appeal it, right?
Can they appeal?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're thinking. And it's the appellate process is misunderstood a little bit. When you appeal a case, you're not appealing directly a jury's verdict. You don't say, oh, they just got it wrong. First of all, you can appeal if there's an improper juror selection. Pick someone based on, or exclude someone based on race. Somebody has an opinion that they didn't, or prior knowledge they didn't disclose, they get on the jury. But after that, you're appealing rulings of the judge. The judge let in some evidence he shouldn't have, didn't let in evidence he should have. And then there's the directed verdict stage. Remember at the close of the prosecution case, the defense stood up and said, you got to throw this out, Judge, because there's not enough evidence to go to the jury. Judge Newman disagreed and said, there's plenty of evidence if they believe it. That's how you indirectly question the jury's verdict. You say the judge at that point should have noticed that there was not enough evidence for a jury to find the defendant guilty, except if the jury was acting out of prejudice, caprice, or passion. Caprice is CAPRICE. And I'll have to look it up to tell you the exact meaning, but that's the phrase you'll see in any kind of pleading on appeal.
All right, let me ask, I want to ask something real quick. We got about 45 seconds. So in your opinion, for those of us who are not informed with the workings of the legal system and the law, we're just common citizens and we've been watching this from afar, should the average person feel satisfied that the jury got it right?
I think so. It wasn't a 5-minute or an hour-long deliberation. It was 3 hours. And that may seem real quick after a 6-week trial, but maybe there's just too much evidence to ignore. I think any jury that sits there for 6 weeks and doesn't go crazy needs a standing ovation.
Yeah.
I feel confident.
You feel good that they did their job and they did it properly.
Yeah, the jury. Yeah, I mean, I think they had plenty of time. And if you looked at the examination, the cross-examination, and what the judge was allowing, he's allowing everybody to get their points across as best they can. And the long closing arguments, I think I'd be satisfied the jury did their job. They listened to everything and listened to it again.
Yeah. Jim, thank you so much, my friend. We really appreciate your contributions. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon. I did.
I hope someone learned something.
Nobody else did. I certainly did. Thank you, my friend. Talk to you again.
Thank you.
Clemson women are going to lose. They're down 68-58 with 38 seconds to go. That'll do it. See you tomorrow night from Clemson. Have a great night.
You're welcome, Patrick. I know I talk too fast sometimes and slur some words, but, maybe that shows a little bit of a passion. All right. You do a great job, Patrick. You really do. smart. It's licensed for as